Australia's leaders and authorities' initial response to the massacre of Jews at Bondi Beach a few days ago was almost as embarrassing as the 2 years of policies and statements that fostered and encouraged the atmosphere that led to that massacre. But now that they've had a few days to think about it and maybe see if anything needs to be changed, what have they done? Well, they have um, they're talking about changing some stuff. They're talking about, as we've mentioned in recent days, uh, tougher gun control. They're talking about more action, I think, on hate speech against anti-Semitism, extremism, the far right. One thing that's conspicuous in its absence in all these statements is anything to do with Islam, with Muslims, even even with the qualification of radical Islam and all those things that people say. Not even that has been, as far as I can tell, not even that has been part of any of the official conversation, and that tells you where they are going. So as we say in this title, the Australian government is very much doubling down on the policies that led to what happened. And not surprisingly, earlier today, there was what appears, as far as we can tell, again, we're reading reports, we weren't there, we are not a news channel, but as far as we can tell, an attempt at a follow-up at the same site that was thwarted by the police. And that's the kind of thing that might happen if send more police to protect the communities that are under attack. There will be attempts at attacks, and some will be successful, and some will be successfully prevented. Uh, what you're not going to do is stop the attempts. To stop the attempts, you need to identify where they're coming from, uh, who they're coming from, and then go proactively after those people. Again, not a mention of who those people are means there is no chance that you will go after them. Unfortunately. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg, joined by Daniel Kraus. Daniel.
So yeah, I mean, again, and this is repeated again and again when something like this happens, is something terrible happens, they say, oh, we'll look into it, we'll try to fix some things, we will, maybe recommend something. And then basically that nothing happens, or the fundamental cause of this doesn't really get addressed. Because again, the fundamental cause of this isn't the fact that those two guys, or specifically the father, I think he owned the guns, that he was able to acquire six firearms. The point isn't that, maybe there wasn't enough police on site. The fact that this wasn't prevented, the fact that they didn't look into the warnings that something like this was going to happen, again, shows a systematic issue. Um, sometimes compare it to October 7th, right? The fact that October 7th was allowed to happen shows a fundamental issue in the way IDF and generally the government has been thinking about Palestinians and Gaza for a long time. So this is not something you'll solve with simply different policy. You have to completely rethink the way this has been fought until now. And the problem is the fact that Antonio Albanese is not the man to do it. He doesn't have any interest in actually solving the fundamental cause of this. I mean, we'll go into some videos and we can see it. So he needs to resign, or rather, people need to call for his resignation, and possibly under pressure. I mean, I've seen some like 100,000 signatures calling for his resignation. But since the UK, oh, sorry, not the UK, the Australia is under the Westminster system, I think the best course of action usually is his party abandoning him, because they are worried about their own election. So usually this is the way it works. So I think it would have to be, yeah, people need to put on pressure, call for his resignation. I don't know if Prime Minister resigns, do you have to do an election, or you can just put another Prime Minister in charge,
If
right?
it's like the British system, no, you don't have to have
Yeah.
another election.
So yeah,
Um,
they could just replace him with somebody that is more likely to actually do something about it. But again, we've even heard from a former liberal prime minister. Liberal means the right in Australia, and he's telling off to Netanyahu, don't talk about our politics. Uh, you know, the fact that Jewish people were killed under our watch, don't mind it.
Yeah, that was Malcolm Turnbull from the Liberal Party, former prime minister. We saw that a couple of days ago. And yeah, listen, if Albanese goes, that doesn't mean somebody better is coming in his place. But and it might be somebody worse, but he deserves to go. That's the thing. This guy cannot remain in power. And I want to speak directly to, I we our viewership is not enough to change any government anywhere numbers wise, but it is enough if people are actively trying to change that leadership. We've had an influx of viewers from Australia in the last few days. Understandably, the videos we did on Australia, uh, the country with the most viewers for those videos is Australia. And yeah, if you guys um, at this very moment now is a moment where he is under serious pressure, and this is easier than you think. Your voice at this moment counts more than your vote counts on election day. And so yeah, do whatever you can, speak up wherever you can, and make sure at the very least he pays the price politically and and has to go, because that is also a message to whoever replaces him and whoever might want to replace the ruling party if and when an election comes. This is important, and it's important beyond the act of justice that is removing Anthony Albanese from power. It's a step, small step in the right direction of this problem being dealt with. Thank you, Cassandra, for becoming a member of the YouTube channel, and thank you, Tony, for becoming a member of the YouTube channel, and thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, they love Palestine. Palestine. Sunday's atrocity is what free Palestine looks like. Yes, it's what free Palestine looks like. It's what globalized the Intifada looks like. This is the Palestinian cause. The video we did after hours after the attack was titled. Sometimes I look back at titles and I think, you know what, we could have done better. This was not one of them. Palestinianism Comes to Australia was a correct title to talk about that attack. And yes, this is what people have been chanting for, and this is what people got. Thank you, Jonathan, for the super chat, and thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. Daniel, you want to play any clips?
Well, first somebody says Albanese doesn't have to do it. How would you solve it? I mean, the first and foremost is just recognizing the problem, right? After 9/11, we said, no, no, Islam isn't the problem. After this attack, we again are saying Islam is not a problem. After October 7, no, 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 it's not the Palestinians, it's just Hamas. First, you have to recognize that ideas matter, ideas exist, and certain people are holding certain ideas, and certain cultures are holding certain ideas that are not fit with Western culture. Again, this doesn't mean going after every single Muslim person in Australia to kick them out or put them in jail or anything in the regard. It means watching out for those communities, watching what the preachers are saying, looking into organizations, looking into people, not being afraid of being called Islamophobe. Because again, the idea of being Islamophobe is crazy. We are targeting ideas that are not fit. We are targeting potential because again, ideas actually move people. Like these two guys, I've seen one clip of the Sun being involved in some like rally in the past, uh, but I forgot where I saw the video, so I'm not sure how it is. But would it surprise somebody that these people were celebrating October 7th, were part of these chants? So again, that's why we talked about the UK yesterday about the globalized the Intifada chant being banned. It's because people are moved by ideas, so you have to watch out for this. And if you want to go to video, unless you want to comment, there's one where Antonio Albanese talks about, his solution to this. So maybe we can go to this one
Let's
first.
go in a second. Somebody in the chat says, and this is an important point, anti-Semitism in Australia comes from the far left Greens and the far left news outlets, also other far left groups like the Socialist Alliance. Yeah, it comes from many groups in the left, groups on the right in certainly in Britain, in the US. It is across the board. So yeah, when we say look into Muslim communities, look into mosques, see what they're preaching. That is one big part of what needs to be done. But also look into the whole pro-Palestine movement, as we've been saying on this channel from day one, is the pro October 7th again and again until there are no more Jews left to kill movement. That is what the movement is. And we talked yesterday about this, Britain, not Britain, police in London and Manchester going to arrest people who chant globalize the Intifada. That is, they should look into them, but they should look into everybody in these protests. And if they're peaceful and they chant that, fine. They have free speech. You can say the most despicable things, but the authorities' job is to protect the innocent and assume that if people preach something, there is a chance they will practice it.
Today, I'm announcing a significant number of additional actions to build on the plan. Firstly, the Attorney-General and Minister for Home Affairs will develop a package of legislative reforms to crack down on those who spread hate, division and radicalisation. The National Security Committee has agreed that changes will include the following 5 points. Agreed changes will include: 1. Aggravated hate speech offence for preachers and leaders who promote violence. Secondly, increased penalties for hate speech promoting violence. Thirdly, making hate an aggravating factor in sentencing crimes for online threats and harassment. Fourthly, developing a regime for listing organisations whose leaders engage in hate speech promoting violence or racial hatred. And fifthly, developing a narrow federal offence for serious vilification based on race and/or advocating racial supremacy. The Minister for Home Affairs will also have new powers to cancel or reject visas for those who spread hate and division in this country or would do so if they were allowed to come here. The East Safety Commissioner, the Special Envoy and the Department of Communications will work together to provide online safety advice to address anti-Semitism. Over the coming days, I'll have more to say about the government's response to Sunday's atrocity, including on gun control, and I note that New South Wales is moving on that next week.
Yeah, Bonnie in the chat stole my line. Somehow he can't say Islam. Yeah, where, you know, this is a specific ideology. Also, it's a specific, if you don't want to say Islam, you know what you can say? You can say the pro-Palestine movement, but Anthony Albanese can't say it because he is the pro-Palestine movement. So, yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, so first on hate speech and what specifically it means in Australia, I believe there are sort of two definitions. There is the civil liability, which seems to be sort of more open of just insulting somebody, or I don't think like defamation. Yeah, like intimidation might fall under that. And then there is the criminal part of hate speech, which I think is proper. I hate people when people use hate speech because it's such an open concept that I don't know what that means. But it looks like criminal hate speech means incitement to violence. Like that's what they consider actual hate speech in Australia. So again, like yeah, the problem, as you said, it not even calling out Islam. What this is specifically, what is and again, why is it so hard to call it out? Like it's so easy to call out the far right, or what they call the far. Again, another like vague concept, like what exactly is far right. But you know, we are able to call out neo-Nazis. We KKK in America was investigated by FBI. Had like KKK members were part of a like I mean as part of the process of like investigating it. Were part of it. Like this happened because they were worried. Okay, like this is a group that is like you know putting crosses on people's lawns, has lynched people in the past. Maybe we should actually look into this organization to make sure you know what the stuff they're doing, we can like prevent things from happening, which I would kind of recommend the movie Black Clans Black Cake Klansman, KK, something, Black Klansman, look it up and you'll be able to find it, which is a real story about a black person who joined KKK. Um, but yeah, so like we do this. So why is it hard? Like send somebody, send whatever the federal police in Australia is into a mosque, join a church, see if those are grounds for basically inspire hatred or are inspiring people to do crime. Like this is a simple thing. This is not some kind of like new thing of like investigating organizations, whatever they are, just because they are religious organization doesn't give them some kind of immunity from anything. Like you can do no wrong just because you're a religious organization.
Yeah. Thank you, PC, for the super chat. PC says, Razi, while we cannot 100% know where anti-Semitism originated, it's probably Matthew's gospel and the fact that most Jews rejected Christ, but it's grown over time and it's an ancient hate. Yeah. And look, what matters today is who these people are and what is their motivation. And again, it could be Islam, it could be this Palestinianism, which again, to what extent do people understand? Do people think about it? You know, this terrorist organization in that was planning the New Year's Eve attack in Los Angeles. Um, Turtle Island something, right? I saw an interview with one of their people, obviously her face covered. I think it's been making the rounds on social media, and they sound really, she sounds not intelligent or at least not knowledgeable. They don't have to be intelligent or knowledgeable, they just have to follow the orders that they think they're getting or that they are getting. And so, yeah, looking into all of these today as under the assumption that again that they might actually mean what they say, that is a step towards solving this problem. Somebody in the chat says, trying to stifle a movement only grows it further. Look at Nick Fuentes. Okay, so wherever people,
But by the
violate.
way, that's not even true. Nick Fuentes is losing sort of like he doesn't have really that much media attention. A lot of his stuff is botted, saying like it is because people are starting to accept him. That is becoming the problem. He isn't rising because people are ignoring him. He's rising because Tucker Carlson invites him on a show, because Heritage Foundation refuses to condemn him. Like it's the exact opposite that is happening.
Yeah, it's the people. Yeah, the people who are trying. I said this yesterday. People who are sort of, if not on the side of the good, not fully committed to the side of evil, trying to find middle ground with this, with these people. I think it's been almost a week that we've been putting off the episode about Megyn Kelly, but that is coming very soon, and that episode needs to be heard because she is really the poster child for people who are trying to find middle ground and ending up on the side of evil. And the same person who made the previous comment also says, I don't understand why should he mention Islam? Wait, no. Was this the comment? I think there was a comment saying that that mentioning Islam might
Yeah,
uh yeah. Oh yeah, if he
it's
if
right
he
up.
says Islam, he risks giving a green light to other lunatics to do these acts. Again, so what you are saying is because these people are violent, because they say and then act in accordance with what they're saying, we should just step back so that we don't infuriate them even more. This was said even after 9/11, by the way. This was said, no, we're going to radicalize the Middle East and so on. And again, this probably was kind of seeped into policy, U.S. policy that led the U.S. to pick the easiest targets to build a worldwide coalition around, which were not the first targets you should have gone after, and led President Bush to lie about Islam and claim that it is a religion of peace. Um, Again, no religion is a religion of peace, but Islam is more a religion of war and mass murder than any other, certainly in the way it's practiced today. And yeah, appeasing evil has never worked. Defeating evil completely has worked. When the West actually did this against Nazi Germany and against Japan, it worked. And we should try it again.
wanna watch one more clip?
Yeah.
Uh, Okay, this is an older one.
Well, old footage has surfaced of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese at a pro-Palestinian rally earlier in his parliamentary career. In the grainy video, Mr Albanese can be seen protesting against Israel's occupation of Palestine next to a sign that reads, "Stop the Israeli slaughter, free Palestine now." Mr Albanese also used a microphone to condemn the Israeli military.
Children throwing rocks with helicopter gunships, with tanks and with missiles.
Okay, I haven't seen the rest of that report. I don't know if anybody mentioned the Hezbollah flag in the background, but that says a lot. This guy is on the side of terrorists. He won't say it in those words, so he minces words, and have become so accustomed to politicians doing that. And when there's any politician who doesn't do that, it's the verbal diarrhea of Donald Trump. And so, we're kind of okay with it. But no, it's not okay. If this guy, again, I speak to our viewers in Australia, if this is your prime minister, that is a huge problem, not just for the Jews in Australia, not just for Israel, who won't have Australia as an ally and will probably survive, that. It is a problem for all of you. Believe me, the people who committed the slaughter, the people who support it, they don't want to stop at just the Jews. Yeah, they're not gonna kill all the Jews and then live happily ever after with all the rest of you infidels. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, again, with this specific, like, why would you expect this person to like do anything when it comes to combating, like, he views pro-Palestinians as good. You might say this was some time ago, which I'm not even sure where exactly was this, but he was already a member of parliament when he was doing this. And as far as I've seen, he didn't distance himself from this. He didn't do like, when I was, well, not even younger, because he's already like very adult, but that was before I got into power or whatever. It's no, he still believes in what he said, or he didn't disavow that. And he shows it in actions. Even if you disavow something, we still follow your actions. He recognized the Palestinian state. He gave a reward to Palestinians for terrorism. Why would we, again, what he said about sort of like trying to solve it, which, going like, and he said preachers, right? Going into listening to what preachers say and maybe like charging them. That's something, I guess. That's great to see. But will he actually stand by that, or is this just something to placate the masses? We'll just say that, but we won't actually go after it. That's what matters in the end, is actually what you do about it, and that's why. Even if he says all the right things, even if he says he will do exactly what I say, why would I believe that this person really has what it takes to do so if he doesn't believe pro-Palestinians are a problem? If he doesn't believe that whole culture, I mean, Palestinian culture, is a problematic thing. And when it comes to earlier we mentioned about sort of like aggravating like Muslims or Islam because you target them, it's if they are, then they are the ones who should be aggravated. Like any Muslim or any decent Muslim that wants to live properly in Western culture should be also scared about the rise of Islamic terrorism, about Palestinians. Like a proper Muslim shouldn't be pro-Palestinian. That's not a Western culture. That's not a culture that any good person should want to live in. So I'm okay with aggravating those people.
Yeah, somebody in the chat says Australia will fall to Islam faster than even the UK. Albanese and his party are Hamas loyalists. Well, the thing with that is it's not inevitable. People keep saying this kind of stuff, and sometimes with a little bit of glee, especially if they're not in said country. When people talk about France or Germany or Sweden, look, you had these policies, you brought all these people in, now you're getting what you deserve. No, and it's not inevitable. Your team can be down 2-0 at the 70th minute and still win the match. Football analogy for sorry about that. But yeah, and that is
Nil
very
means
much the
zero.
state of what?
Nil means zero.
Yeah, That is very much the state, unfortunately, of many countries in the West, and Australia is further along than the UK. And again, the UK, by the way, as I said, I banning the chant "globalize the Intifada" is somewhat of a cop out, but it's it's like we're not completely ignoring where the general direction from which the problem comes. We're just not gonna actually be very specific in our activities against it. And yeah, so Australia is further along, but it can still be saved. It's the people of Australia who need to save it, or yeah, we will. Yeah, we will get what we don't deserve, but we don't, if we're not acknowledging that it's coming, then it is, and it's unpreventable at that point. Daniel, we don't have time for another clip, right?
No.
All right.
But since now we're finished with Anthony Albanese, let's move on to the next Albanese on the reality show.
Oh,
Take it
is
off.
she making an appearance? It's not about her.
She is in the first article I sent to people.
Nice. Okay, I should read those. But yeah, Israel is apparently happily accepting responsibility for paying for the rubble created in the war started by the Palestinians. That is the topic of the reality show, which starts in a couple of minutes. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. See you in a couple of minutes on the reality show.